Welcome to the I-80 Club. I-80 Live. Josh Peterson, Jack Mitchell with you on this Wednesday night. We very much appreciate you joining us here, hanging out on YouTube. If you are joining us perhaps for the first time, or if you have been watching us for a while, we would very much appreciate a like and a subscribe, and for you to just join us for all that we have to offer inside of the I-80 Club. Jack, hello. How are you?
Good. How are you? It's game night, baby.
Let's
go. Let's go. Yep. Game night.
Yeah. It could be the last. It could be the last, Jack, or it could be the continuation of a great, glorious run towards a crown.
It could be another night of many where the crown tournament is still going on. We just don't know, but that's the excitement of the crown. You know, that's why America's fallen in love with the crown. So
yes, they certainly have. They certainly have. Alex posts a crown emoji. I-formation says hello all, and Alex adds, love playing in April. Couldn't imagine if my team wasn't. Yeah,
can't either.
Jack, it's hard to imagine. Husker fans are living the life right now. Some teams in this state, all the teams in this state, their seasons are done. It's April the 2nd, and their seasons are toast. They're just getting ready for off-season content, or I guess baseball for some reason. But you and I are here still talking hoops. We're talking college basketball.
Are we permitted to talk hoops tonight? What are we permitted to talk tonight? It's been a lot of what is it okay?
Jack, that's a great point. It's a great point. There's been debating inside and outside of the I-80 Club on which sports we should and shouldn't be discussing. For those who are joining us for the first time, again, this is the I-80 Club. Normally we do bonus episodes like this one that are available behind a paywall at patreon.com/I-80 Club, but we decided to go live ahead of the basketball game for free tonight on YouTube. But one of the critiques that happened in recent weeks, I guess, Jack, this was like right when the basketball season, the regular season came to an end. One of our listeners was very upset with the amount of basketball that you and I had spent some time talking about. He said, stop opening the podcast with 20 minutes about garbage basketball.
So we did.
And then, of course, on Monday, my former coworker, Michael Severe, and friend of the pod, Jacob Bigelow, they were going at it on Twitter about coverage of Husker football in March and April. So I don't know what the people want right now.
I'll tell you what, Nebraska baseball is in, last I saw, a 4-4 tie game with Omaha in like the second inning. So probably ought to just not live tweet it, but just live discuss it. Watch party,
I guess we could.
As it were.
We could do a live watch party of the tariffs. I mean, that's a topic that nobody is really upset about or debating at all online right now.
I always go on our Discord as a Husker baseball channel. And again, as you mentioned, this is public, so not everyone knows about this, but you should join if you want to be a part of a fun community and a place to always watch games with other people, that sort of thing. The Husker baseball Discord section is there's about we have got 5 people in the club who are big baseball fans, 5 to 7 maybe. I just feel bad for them every time I go into the baseball Discord. Like I cheer for Nebraska, but baseball certainly, especially if they're doing well, but I definitely don't live and die with them. And I'm not saying these people do either, but man, they are it's tough. Yeah. It is as bad as football and basketball when things get bad for them.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
especially after losing to Creighton again,
Yeah, it devolves very quickly, Jack, into fire coach talk, which you're usually not a huge fan of.
Whatever you got to do.
Pro coaches, no matter what they've done, on or off the field, or
I don't think they'll fire him. He won the Big Ten last year, man.
He did win the Big Ten. He did win the Big Ten.
I was
there. Jack out on baseball. D-Lo, Jack, only if we good. That is the best way to approach, in my opinion, college baseball. If they're good, engage. If they're not,
it's the best way. If you can do that with any sport, I would say that is the best way to do it, right?
I guess that's true. Yeah.
And maybe I'd be paying attention to the NBA at some point during the last 20 years as a Bulls fan.
If the Bulls were good.
I would have jumped in. I almost jumped in during the Derrick Rose era, and then,
Now he tore his ACL.
That was gone, and so they've had no air. Talk about a franchise. Finally, some NBA talk. Talk about a franchise that has had a long streak of.
Nobody ever talks about that. No one talks about the sad Bulls fans.
They don't, do they? Yeah,
no, I know. Nobody ever talks about it.
Like, if you're talking about, like, the worst franchises of the last 3 decades, no one brings up the Bulls, but they should definitely be on there, right? In pro sports?
Yeah. You want to talk about this, like, random bolt of lightning Man, I don't know if there is a franchise who has ever had so much success in such a short amount of time, and otherwise no one cares. No one cares about the Bulls. You're right. They had that random Derrick Rose couple of seasons, but otherwise it's like, congrats on the Michael Jordan era. This is your penance for having the greatest athlete of all time. You will now suck forever.
I cannot think of any other team that dominated the 90s and then just went away for like decades after I cannot even think of anything like that. Just like,
I'm not sure if this is a rip on the Cowboys or the Huskers here. I can't tell which angle you're.
Oh,
wow!
Is that the
thing?
Bulls,
is it the curse
Cowboys,
of the 90s?
Huskers. Are the Cowboys and the Bulls? Wow, I had never thought of it that way.
Yeah, because and I will read this. Information says, are the Bulls the Huskers of the NBA? Success in the 90s and then nothing. Well, but let's not forget that like. Nebraska was really good. Dallas Cowboys, they used to be really, really good. Like, they had a lot of success leading up to the 90s. Now, it peaked in the 90s for both Nebraska and for the Dallas Cowboys. But ever since then, well, Jordan points out Georgetown basketball, though that's more about the 80s. And, hey, who's Nebraska playing tonight, Jack?
Wow, way to bring it full circle. That's
Adam,
incredible.
Are we really doing Bulls talk?
What did the Georgetown get a national championship in what, 85, 84?
84. Yeah, I actually looked this up today.
I was going to say, how do you know that off the freaking top of your head?
Yeah, they lost it to Carolina in 82. They won in 84, and then they lost
the Villanova
to
game. Yeah, okay, 85, they lost to Villanova. 84, they won the whole thing. Yeah, that's an interesting. Okay, here's a question. Is Nebraska football more like the Cowboys or more like the Bulls?
Cowboys.
It's the Cowboys.
Yes,
it's a Cowboys because they also had success in the 70s, and it wasn't all based on one single player.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
It was a group. Wow, your two team. Josh is not a fan. He is a neutral media member. Anyway, your two.
I'm wearing Husker sweats right now.
That's incredible. You picked between your football team, my NBA team, and both of our football teams. We have picked we are living in the 90s. Forever, right?
Yeah, it's called hell.
That's amazing.
Hell, yeah, when you're not living in the 90s. I do like this comment from Adam. Are we really doing Bulls talk? Look, we decided this isn't paywall. This isn't a bonus episode. We got to give the folks on YouTube what they have been demanding, and that is Chicago Bulls from the 1990s.
We can't talk about Husker basketball. We can't talk about Husker football. We can't talk about the Bulls.
Yep.
What can we talk about?
What are we allowed to talk about?
What are we allowed to talk about without people complaining about the topic?
No one wants to hear about baseball. No one cares about baseball.
Nobody thinks that's an interesting. I think that's an interesting comparison I've never thought of.
Yeah. Is there another comp for the Bulls? Is there another team, again, white hot, short amount of time?
Deal.
Yeah, we're not doing that topic. Lots of wins, lots of titles, greatest athlete adjacent of all time. And then, like, just very, very forgettable, both before and after. They are a one. He is a one of one. MJ continues to own LeBron. He's a one of one in too many ways. Sorry, LeBron. There's never been anyone like Michael Jordan.
But I don't know if Georgetown, Indiana basketball, they won it in 2002. They've been around the NCAA tournament, so that's probably not them.
Indiana
but who else is in the? I'm just trying to think of other teams. University of Indiana basketball. I was trying to think if University of Indiana fit in that sort of genre of team where we're kind of, we're dominant, but I don't even know that they weren't like dominant in the 90s. They were good, but they weren't really dominant in the 90s. Like their best years were in the 80s. So,
by the way, people are saying the Patriots, and that is that's a good one. Let's see what happens in the decades to come.
Well, it's too early, but are they the new one? Yeah,
they're definitely trending. They're definitely trending into being a congrats on Tom Brady. That was really fun, but you are going to be garbage now forever. Congrats, though. At least you had the Tom Brady run. At what point, Jack, did the memories – here's a great question for you. At what point did the memories of the good old days become an anchor? Like, you had the 90s. It was awesome. As a Nebraska fan, you were living the dream forever. And then it suddenly is 5 years ago, and you're like, God, that kind of sucks. And then it's like 10 years ago, and you're like, oh, man, that really sucks. And now it's been 30 years since 1995. It's now an anchor. The 90s are now an anchor. But when did Nebraska's football cross the Rubicon of, wow, that was fun too? God, this sucks.
It's a great question. I was listening to a Royals podcast recently, and they were talking about, they're like, oh, man, It's the
10
10-year
years.
anniversary of the World Series. And so they're going to have this moment in 2015 the whole time, constantly. They're going to do all of those things. And it's like all that does is make you a little depressed about the current situation. And so I'm going to say 10 years.
10 years. Wow.
After
So
10 years.
by 2007, which is apt because that year was horrible, you were like, shit, 10 years. It's been a long time. It's been a long time. Yep. D'Lo, by the way, points out, remember 25 years ago when Nebraska won the conference? Jesus, Jack, you want to get really depressed. Brendan says after the 2010 season. Yeah, I was kind of thinking of that era too. Like, I remember, Jack, and I noticed this as a student at some point at Memorial Stadium. They had the list of all the conference titles. And I remember looking at that and seeing like, wow, there's always one at least every decade, and there's always one. And I remember when they faced Texas in 2009, thinking, if they don't get this, this will be the first decade since, I believe, the 50s, where they had not won a conference. And I remember really caring about that, like the huge dork that I am. And, of course, they didn't win it, and they still have not won it, because 2009 is now 16 years ago. 2009 can now drive a vehicle.
Yes.
Is how long ago that is. Yeah.
Right.
Adam, sweet summer child. Yeah, seriously. We didn't even know the winter that was coming for Nebraska back in 2009. No. That was closer to the good old days than we are now to 2009, Jack. Think about that. You in 2009 was closer to the glory years than we are today to 2009.
Do you ever do that with years? Like,
all the time.
Like sometimes I'll be like, I think of like when I was, I was a kid, and so I was born in 1977. So the 50s were, 18 years prior to that? 18 years prior to now is 2007.
I hate that crap. That is so stupid.
I've been on Twitter almost that long. That would be like if I were born, if Twitter, like the 50s, like Twitter was invented in 1959. That blows my mind. Or do the thing, September 11th is always, but September 11th is always the thing.
Never forget.
24 years prior, right? So if you did 24 years like prior to when I was born, right? 1950, that's 1953. Like we're getting close to, we're not that far from like World War II compared to when I was born.
Yeah. Yeah.
Crazy.
Well, I mean, I think the best way that I always had that represented was when I read a Chuck Klosterman book, and he talked about Back to the Future and how you think about it in terms of Back to the Future. In that movie, it's set in 85. He travels back to 1955. And then he's like, that's here's the sound that you're looking for. Yes. Listen to this. Jack, imagine now 30 years ago, you're going back to 95. Like, what are you doing? Hey, that new sound you're looking for? Listen to, I don't even know what are you playing? What are we playing?
Chronic by Dr. Dre,
No,
that would have been 4 years before that.
No, you have to play something from 2025 for them. You have to play Johnny Be Good.
Oh, you got like a current. Oh, God.
Yeah, you have to be like, this is what the next thing is going to be.
I will tell you
the next thing going to be.
The wildest thing as you get older is how much younger the old people seem. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. Like my mom is now, let's see, she's 70. That's insane to me. Like she's 74 now.
Okay.
And like she seems like the women she still seems like the women who are like 50 to me all my life, right? The people who are 74, like my grandma, who when she was 74, seems like she's 20 years older than my mom was in the past.
Yeah.
Right. And like people who are in there, I just perceive, I don't know what it is, but people in their 60s and 70s seem so much older when I was a kid than they do now.
Yes,
so
100%.
Much older.
Well, I'm guessing, Jack, that you have had
Val
this.
Kilmer was 65. Oh my gosh. That's incredible.
So I am at an age, I can't remember about your parents if they were young. Were your parents young when they had you, or were they?
They were both not that young. They're not for that time, definitely not. They were both born in 51. I was born in 77. So they were 26. That was pretty old for that era.
So I was
That's
born.
That's old I was.
My parents were 22 when I was born. They were going to turn 23 within the next few months. And so now I'm 36 now, and I have very much started reaching the age where I'm like, I remember my dad at 36. My dad turned 36 after 9/11.
Isn't that crazy?
My dad turned 36.
That's crazy.
Jack, I feel like a child still. I'm so immature. Like I can't imagine having a kid. And yet when my dad was 36, he had 3 children. He had 3 boys, and the youngest was 6 years old. Like, I can't imagine having 1 kid, let alone 3, let alone one of them being a teenager.
Right.
It's wild.
Again,
wild.
I'll do this again. The difference between the 50s and the 80s was 21 years. 21 years ago, 2004. Like,
God,
it's
so
just
stupid.
like,
yeah. Well, I think you start hitting peak, like the passage of time when you watch basketball highlights from a decade ago and you're like, why are they dressed like that? It's not that long ago, and yet the uniforms are entirely different. Like Creighton highlights showed up at some point in time during the tournament when they were knocking in all those threes versus Villanova one time. And I'm like, why are their shorts so big? It's not even that long ago. Pretty wild. Absolutely wild.
That reminds me, I was wearing, like, I have a bunch of gym shorts in the closet. I was wearing one. I was working out, and I came home and I was talking to my wife. I was like, why do I continue to wear these gym shorts that I'm sure I bought 15 years ago, and they're so big? It's time. I need to stop. I need to go. I need to shorten my gym shorts. You need
to show your knee off a little bit.
I need to go to the 7-incher. 7 inches is the appropriate length now. And I need to. So I went on Amazon and I bought a bunch of 7-inch gym shorts.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. Good for you, Jack.
I realized that. I looked. I-Formation just posted the famous picture.
The famous photo.
The famous
not fake.
And I was working out and I looked in the mirror and I saw myself and I was like, oh my gosh, this is me.
Yeah.
I'm still wearing gym shorts from the aughts.
Well, the best part was, so for my bachelor party a couple summers ago, we went golfing, and my youngest sister-in-law was like, you could tell who was not Gen Z and the lone person who was, which is my youngest brother, because his shorts, a lot of thigh, and everyone else down to the knee, if not lower.
That was when I first realized it. It was when my son was playing middle school basketball, and they all looked like they were running in the 1972 Boston Marathon. It was like,
great reference, Jack.
It was like John Stockton out up there for every kid. And when he played high school basketball, they would roll them up. They would roll the waist up so that the shorts were coming down right at their thighs.
Yeah.
Do you remember that guy for St. John's who, like, maybe 5 years?
Yes. When he wore the short shorts and was like, who is this guy?
Yes, he wore the short shorts, but then like long sleeve. It was the weirdest thing.
Yes.
He wore like long sleeves, but he wore the shortest. Again, it looked like he was running a marathon in the 70s.
Yeah.
Jack,
you ready for this? So you said, and by the way, this is the title. Thank you to those who pointed out you saying 7 inches is the appropriate length. Good stuff from everybody. Jack, I recently got some 5-inch shorts that I wear just out and about. I wear them around. So I got the 5-inchers on.
You got 5-inchers? You wear them out in public?
I wear them out in public. I'm going to wear them when we go to Boston in a few weeks. I'm going to hope to wear them on the flight.
Not when you're running the marathon, or when you're just going for dinner after the marathon?
Well, no, these are more like, what do they call them? Athleisure. Like, they are very much comfy shorts. I'm going to wear them on the plane. I want to wear them. I like being comfortable on a plane.
I want to measure the shorts I'm wearing now. 5 seems that seems like we might be.
There's a lot of thigh there, Jack. Yeah, there's a lot of. I have tattoos on my legs, and you can see the tats. Okay.
So I got, like, this is going right. I think those are 7s. I think 7 is the number for me.
Yeah. Alex just wrote OMG. Yeah. So yeah, I'll be
inches.
rocking
I don't know if I can do 5 inches.
Yeah.
I still have a little. There's still, because that was so nerdy when I was young. Like, those short, all we did was make fun of short shorts.
Yeah, and now they're back. They're back in full force.
All we did is make fun of short shorts and people who didn't bend the bills on their caps. Is it like, yes, and especially if they had a rope on it like that.
To be fair, this bill, I'm nervous about bending it too much more because I don't want it to suddenly have like a V.
Seriously. Speaking of 95, if I saw you wearing that hat in 95, I would have beat the shit out of you.
Yeah, well, that's how people feel about your hats today. With as D'Lo wrote a few minutes ago. Where is it at? I'm still beating my hat bill like it owes me money. Yeah, we know. Yeah, that's how Jack.
He's about my age. He knows that. He's good with that.
Keena writes, I literally just tuned in to Jack pulling up his shorts and saying, I don't know if I could do 5 inches. Mo says, if Jack shows off his feet, I am out.
I won't show you my feet. Nobody want to see that.
Yeah, I love the idea of people stumbling upon this tonight as we're like, you know what? Let's not do a paywalled episode. Let's see what's going on out in the real world and discovering Jack showing off his legs for all to see.
You look like, you know what your hat looks like? It looks like in about 1987 when you would see someone's grandpa wearing a World War II veteran hat is what that looks like. Like the USS,
a bunch of things all over
USS something with the gold, the gold, whatever.
Ooh, Brendan, great question. Grifters offer in-depth analysis of Hat Bill Bend. I think not. People are saying it about us, Jack. We're not the grifters in Nebraska media. We're here talking about the issues that people care about.
That's right. We're not grifters because of the lack of making a lot of money, right?
Yeah. Well,
holy crap, Butler cut it to 11.
It actually got down to 10 at one point, Jack. I was very worried that this game was going to turn into a foul fest.
There's still 2 minutes left in this game. We're not going to get the Husker game started on time, are we? What's the 20? Is it 25 minutes?
Jack and I were trying to figure out how soon after this game ends will Nebraska's game begin.
Or will they just start at 8:30 no matter what?
Yeah, that'd be nice. Wouldn't that be hilarious? Like the game is still going on and they're like, fuck it, it's the Crown. Nobody cares. Let's just start the game when we have to. And they just start
Let me ask you this.
On time. Okay.
What is your perception of the Crown so far?
Perception.
As you've been watching it, obviously, over the last few days.
I've been, before I answer the question, on Monday, I had it on with the volume totally off because I was reading a book. Because I needed to follow it to know, will I be updating the graphics for the post-game show that you and Caleb Henry ended up hosting that night? So I was like, I'm gonna have it on. And Riss comes in and she sits down and she says, "Can we turn on baseball? I wish we were watching baseball." And so I turned on baseball instead. And then, Jack, I followed the game on my phone the rest of the game, checking in occasionally in between reading. And then once the game was over, I went and updated the stats. My engagement with the Crown is this. It seems like no one cares and everyone is making fun of it, but yet people are still somehow kind of watching it a little bit. But nobody seems to take this thing seriously. You're not taking it. You were scrolling your phone the other night. Your post-game show is just you talking about how you want to fly to Vegas. But no breakdown. I was like, can I do a breakout video? The only breakout video we could have done for Husker Max was you saying,
Josh,
do you think someone will pay us money to go to Vegas?
That's because the first half was so terrible, I thought they'd mailed in the season.
Yeah, it's all.
But there's a lot of season left all of a sudden.
Yeah.
A lot of season left.
A lot of season.
I don't know.
Yeah. Alex,
Fran
that was a great
post-game show. Wait, Fran McCaffrey is there. Why is Fran McCaffrey at the Crown? And who's that next to him? That's Lon Kruger. Why was Lon Kruger there?
Are they scouting? Are they scouting future players?
It's the biggest tournament in America. That's why they're not at the Final Four. They're at the Crown.
Alex says that was a great postgame show. D'Lo says postgame had zero basketball analysis. Oh, thank you, Jordan. His kid plays at Butler.
Yeah, no crap.
Right. Oh, there he is, Patrick.
Oh yeah, his kid plays Patrick. Isn't that Caitlin Clark's significant other?
Really?
I believe so. Yes.
Damn, good for him.
I believe that's true. I mean, I don't know. I haven't checked if there's.
Corny says, isn't Gus Johnson called this game? I think Kugler is. I know Kugler's there.
Isn't Ba there too?
Ba's been doing like sideline reporting for some of the games. God.
Oh my gosh! And the funny thing is, every game I watch has someone from Nebraska. Game I watch has someone from Nebraska in it too. Last night you had Bangout Doc playing for Colorado.
Nice.
And then you had obviously
Nebraska.
What? Yeah,
you said
you
someone
had
from
Nebraska as well. You got
Nebraska.
Kugler from Nebraska. Arizona State had Alton Mason's kid playing on it. USC has St. Thomas on it. It's like a Nebraska reunion up there.
I-Formation says, I didn't like the post-game show, but that is okay. There you go. That's a good way to approach it. Not everything has to be for you. I enjoyed it. I listened on my run the next day, Jack. It made me laugh at times, and that's all I really care about.
My post-game show?
The one that you recorded the other night.
Oh, wow. I'm just sort of surprised. He just came out and he said he didn't like it. Wow.
No, but he said it was okay. That's okay.
Oh, okay.
It's okay that he didn't like your post-game show.
All right, regardless. I mean, I do want to go to Vegas.
Dude, it's a great time.
If they win, I want to go to
picture
Vegas.
of Connor Happer and me, and I was very drunk in that photo. Very drunk.
Can't even tell. I wouldn't have guessed it.
Yeah, you wouldn't have guessed it with that smile.
You look very
That's a 32-ounce,
upright.
80% IPA. And that was the second one that I had that night. Yikes. Absolute yikes.
Solid. Jack was on autopilot. Wow. This is my favorite. We're just going back and
Ooh, is this shit on Jack hour?
Wow, no kidding. Well, surprised that, guess what, though? 100 people sat there and watched it for a half hour, or 45 minutes.
Thank you for your service. Speaking of shitting on media members.
Well, I won't do one tonight then.
Well, wow. I guess we're not doing a post-game show tonight now because of the mean things people are saying.
Guess not. Nope, guess not.
Theo says a podcast that shits on Husker media would make a fortune. Jack, have you thought about us maybe starting to crap all over our brethren? Our brothers and sisters in the media to maybe make a fortune like Theo says?
Sometimes I haven't thought about that.
No. Okay. So maybe we'll look into that. Gene writes, I'm more shocked Lon Kruger is still around. Yeah, I'll be honest. I'm fairly surprised about that too.
Lon Kruger coaching Illinois back in the day. That's what I remember him from. And then Oklahoma.
Yeah, that's what I remember
coaching
him from.
Right now?
Alex, have you seen Michael's video? Yeah, thank you. That's a good nice callback. He did kind of crap all over it. Ooh, I-formation. Those are unrecorded pods.
Yeah, they are.
In our early
That's
days,
why
we
people
did talk
should become
more about
members.
the media than we do now.
Oh man, yeah, people should become members. They would, if they'd know some stuff. The members who are on the Discord know some stuff.
Oh yeah.
If you're a public, yeah.
Let me ask you this, and as I try to have like a semi-serious discussion about and I don't think Bigelow is hanging out in here tonight. I haven't seen him type anything. But the Bigelow severe back and forth, not so much who do you think won the argument, or do you want to pick sides, or do you wish you could retweet Bigelow but he deleted his Twitter account? Is that something that you have been thinking about in the wake of their back and forth, and that is coverage like of sports and what you cover and what you and I talk about and when we talk about it? Because I will say this, beyond the just initial reaction, it seems like a discussion the fan base has had throughout much of this week is, I'm actually on Michael's side, or I'm actually on Bigelow's side. Like, I wish there was less basketball, or I wish there was less football. Nobody says that. Everyone says they wish there was less basketball. But like, where did you come out in the, that's an interesting topic to maybe think about discussion?
Not very. I don't think it's very interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, people in media are going to write / talk about / whatever what there's a demand for, right? And there's a demand. Yep. There's a demand for football. In our case, we talk about basketball because it's happening immediately. But I guess, and we've learned there isn't a demand for it, so we've moved on. For the most part, from it, like we could be giving a preview of this game. We're obviously not. We're just screwing around, which there's more demand for than there is for a preview of this game. Yeah. I don't know. Like, I don't get. It's really hard for me to get wrapped up in that whole thing, because I know, and like Schaefer had a good Discord or a good discussion on the Discord, right? About some things that were written and whether or not he was like, but look, we got to write stuff. There's a market for it. We get like. There's a job to do in this thing, and that's to get people to read stuff. Yeah. To make money on it.
Or to listen to the pod. And subscribe on YouTube at youtube.com/@I-80 Club.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. Like, whatever. Of course people are talking about. No, I did. I mean, honestly, I'm not trying to just be a jerk, but I didn't really find it all that. I am very not passionate about anyone's point on that.
Really? That surprises me. First of all, because you're always.
What did you think I would even come out on it? Like,
well, just like, I don't know. There are some people in this market who are like, the only reason we talk about football right now, the only reason I talk about football right now is because I know that I have to, and they're resigned to it and they're frustrated by it. And there are others, and I'd say I'm in this camp. I am the person that, hey, you want more football talk? Great. I'm a tremendous. I don't know, conduit for that for you, because that's what I want to do. I'm the person who, when I was a listener of the radio shows back when I was in high school and college, I would scroll through the podcast looking for the football segments and download those. And if I saw baseball or basketball, I'd be like, well, all right, that's not for me today. I am that person. I was that person.
I mean, this time of year, I don't really want to talk football, but I do. I'm not thinking. I want to talk about what I'm thinking about, and I'm not really thinking about football for the most part right now.
Interesting.
At least as it stands right now. Now, it won't be long, Josh, and I will.
Before you will be. Yeah.
I will be very soon, within weeks, but I'm just not right now. It's still sort of basketball. I'm sort of in like a sports break right now, but we have the Crown, and that's taking it over. Yeah. But Yeah, but I can tell when we do shows, people want football.
They want the football.
People want football. Even if it's not about this season and it's about football generally, right?
Sure.
The past, rankings or lists or remembering nostalgia, whatever. That's people 100% want it.
Dave Fight says, I can see both sides of the argument. Sevier didn't need to be condescending. Bigelow didn't need to go scorched earth and claim it was a bit. And you mentioned Schaefer a couple moments ago. I mean, God, I would almost say subscribe and just go check out what Schaefer said in the Discord, because the discussion of that was good. But D'Lo says Schaefer's insight was great. Brendan added, Schaefer was super transparent and measured about it. Found it hella insightful. And that's kind of why I find this discussion interesting. It's not so much like, do you wish you did more or do you wish you did less football? But more like how I think about the job, how he thinks about the job. Because I think Schaefer is obviously really good. I think you agree with me that Schaefer is very good at being able to do a variety of different things at a very high level.
I don't agree with that.
And turning like random spring press conferences into, discussions this time of year. Like, how do you do that? I'm happy that I don't have to do the written stuff like he does. The people who have to go in the weeds on the writing every day, dude, that seems way harder than the stuff that we get to do. D'Lo says, what do you think about this? We as a consumer need to demand better content. We are the problem. Are the fans not demanding better stuff? And if so, what would that even look like?
I think he's, as usual, D'Lo is 100% right on that. Like, I mean, no, but I mean, I agree with it. Again, the market is driven by what people are reading,
interested
consuming.
In. Yeah.
You can be mad that people don't do what you want them to do, but we're all going to, as people who are in the market, Josh, our entire business is going to what people want to hear and is going to keep them listening or subscribing or for clicking or whatever, right? The only way you change where people go is if there's a critical mass of consumers who go in a different direction. He's exactly right. I mean, if you want to critique where they're going, it's capitalism, man. It's capitalism.
Don't hate the player, hate the game.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that's what I would say about it. So
yeah. Some comments coming in. Corny, who lives down in Georgia, he says, it's like the Masters here. People just want to talk about it for the whole week. Every place has things you have to talk about. Also, no market talks about the College World Series at all besides small team-specific media. Yeah, and that's one of the things. Even though we have the College World Series, what do I want to spend most of that week doing, Jack? I want to talk football, the entire time.
Right.
Fight writes, the market is not one thing. Some Kens want 100% sunshine and rainbows. Some want analysis. Fewer want honest criticism. Yeah, I will say, like, one of the fun things about this market, by the way, Jack, there is a countdown clock right now on the screen. 21 minutes and 20 seconds is what we are away from the game. So we'll be on until about 8:40 before we say goodbye. So it'll be close to an hour tonight. But, like, you and I and what we do, I think we do a whole – oh, my gosh, what Dylan just posted. You and I do, I think, different stuff than, like, Damon is going to do or even Michael is going to do. And it's different than what John and I do and what Schaefer does and what Brian Christopherson does and what Sam McEwen does. And so, like, whenever that criticism of, like, there's too much media comes in, I am always like, okay, well, I mean, these are jobs. Most of them are paying, survivable money. And it's like, what else are we supposed to do at this time of year? I don't know. We're feeding the beast, I guess.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I frankly, I think the same thing's happening in the SEC when Alabama and Auburn and Florida and all those places, they were in the NCAA tournament. And I'm going to guess football is still king down there in terms of content.
Well, I remember hearing a story about, like, Cleveland Sports Talk Radio and, like, the Cavaliers won the NBA Finals and the audience was still hoping for Browns talk, like, the next day. Like, they just won the NBA Finals. And people are like, yeah, but what's going on with that quarterback position? Are we going to be okay this year? You think we're going to win 8 games?
You know what? I'll give you a great example. I'm a Royals fan, but I'm not necessarily a Chiefs fan. And last year when the Royals were in the playoffs, I would sometimes listen to Kansas City radio just to listen to the coverage of the playoff and hear. And I would be like, so they do an opening segment, and it was on the Royals with a playoff game that night or whatever. And I'm like, all right, here we go. I need more of this. And then the next 3 segments are on the Chiefs, right? And I'm like, come on, man, it's the playoffs.
Yeah.
Right? It's the playoffs at this point. But It's the same exact thing, right? They're going to do the
Yeah.
Chiefs.
Yeah, there was a comment. Was it the one from Texas Toast where it was like, in Dallas they're talking about the Cowboys all the time. The Rangers are a couple years removed from the World Series. The Stars are playing really good basketball. I mean, the Mavericks are a tire fire right now, but they still want to talk about the Cowboys. That's why sometimes I think like this place is pretty unique. We live in a unique market, and then other times I think, no, we're a football market like the other football markets. And that's what we're going to do. Just like down in Dallas, they're going to talk about the Cowboys. Just like in Philadelphia, they don't want to talk about the Sixers. They want to talk about the Eagles still. It's like that right. in Cleveland. They're going to talk about the Browns. That's what it's like.
But the one commonality among the biggest bulk, the critical mass of the fans is football, right? Like the thing I'm most interested in, Josh, if you were like, what do you really want to talk about in sports right now? Mine would be about who Nebraska basketball is going to get in the transfer portal. To me, that's just me personally. I know I can't do a show on that. Right.
Correct.
But I'd like to do an entire show on who Nebraska basketball that right at this moment. That's what I think. But again, you've got to find where the critical mass of your and football is always. There are very few people who are like, I'm a basketball fan, but I'm not a football fan, right? Mm-hmm. For Nebraska, or I am this, but I'm not this in the type of audience that we're all catering to, because football is always there for all of them.
What do you think about this? And there's some really good comments going on right now, too. I like this one from Dave. He says, the biggest loss with no spring game is speculation instead of analysis. Yeah, it is going to be interesting, even as the spring game has lost a lot of its luster over the last few years, what not having a spring game is going to mean for the summer, doldrums, if you will. But I wanted to run this by you, Jack. Jacob is in his mid-20s. So, to a kind of a callback in a way to how we started the pod. If you look at his time on this earth, Nebraska has never won a conference championship. They have barely played for any. His teenage years and beyond, they have been, bad. Not even like the Bo era, but they've been actual bad. Do you think that plays a part in maybe someone of his ilk saying, why do you put so much time and effort into this? Because it's not what it once was.
Yeah, I do, because when we talk football, about half of it, Josh, is about what's currently going on, and about half of it is about some kind of bigger picture topic about the history and, what, right? We get into what do we talk about recently? Like the biggest rivals or individual games or worst losses or all of the, like, that's all in the whole football stratosphere that we talk about, right? Some things that are evergreen and some things that are timely to the moment. It's about half and half, right? And so those evergreen things become less interesting the less time you've been following it, to be honest. And so you've got a whole bunch less of that, I would think, too. So, yeah.
That's interesting. And, it's funny looking up now during this whole discussion, and Nebraska's getting ready to play in this basketball game against an opponent that they've never played against. And while not a blue blood, Georgetown mattered very, very much, in the college basketball world. But because of when it's coming and following a season that turned into a bit of a mess at the end of the year, nobody is really wanting to engage with it, at least on a serious level. And it seems like people are somewhat interested in the portal, Jack, but it's not. I don't know. It's so hard to kind of figure it out sometimes, because the team has been, what they've been. And so there's this just usual cynicism, and football has it too, of like, okay, cool. Congrats. What's that guy actually going to do for the program?
Right. Mainly what I want is information, because there seems to be stuff floating out there on Twitter, and I don't know if it's true or not. Right. About, is
there like a rumor of a player they're supposed to get?
Well, the whole thing yesterday was Price Sanford from Iowa.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's some, Josh Dix had a weird Instagram post yesterday that people are trying to figure out, and there's a variety of them, but again, like, no, that's generally not the top of the list for the vast majority of people. Georgetown's probably my second favorite college basketball team. This might be a little hard for me tonight.
Yeah,
Georgetown is my second favorite college basketball team. I'll say it.
Was that one of the things that everyone that rooted for Nebraska did back in the day, where you had some people who were Kansas fans and other people who were Duke fans? I was a Carolina fan, for example. Was Georgetown your version of that?
Yeah, probably. Although, like, I started getting into them after they quit, like the Alonzo Mourning years and then the Iverson years. And then they they just didn't get. I remember losing them. They lost to UMass one year in the NCAA tournament. They never were that good. They never quite got to the level they were in the 80s, again in the 90s. But yeah, I kind of adopted them to some degree a little bit. But again, it was about the gear. That's another one God, it was so much about Georgetown and the Charlotte Hornets and, San Jose Sharks, and you can name your team. It was about the gear with so many of them.
Yeah. Ferrell says, I only watch Nebrasketball. Don't care about any other college basketball team.
Yeah, I wasn't like watching. Again, not that much was on in that era.
Yeah. It was a different era. You had Big Monday. Big Monday was such a big deal, and you could turn that on. And Georgetown was, Jack, there is a part of you that, am I wrong in thinking that the little counterculture with you where you're like rooting for the teams maybe to kind of piss some people off? Is that kind of how you operated when you were?
No, Georgetown was just popular. No, Georgetown was wildly
They made
popular.
People really mad, though, didn't they?
Yeah, but I don't know. As a 14-year-old, their gear was cool.
Yeah.
And they had a shoe. Didn't they have a Nike shoe that came out that everybody wanted to? And they were just cool, right? They were cool the way that North Carolina was a little bit.
D'Lo, Jack loved them for their law school. Yeah, you were like, man, that's where I want to go someday.
I might have applied there for law school.
Really?
Because of that. I applied to Duke. But yeah, I might have applied. Well, I lived in DC when I was applying for law schools. So
sure. So that would have made sense.
Yep.
That'd have been cool.
No,
we're probably not doing the I-80 club today if you end up doing that.
Probably not. Do you remember let's see, Bruce says, Jack, do you remember the 90s cartoon that featured Michael Jordan, Bo Jackson, and Wayne Gretzky as super? I do kind of remember that. I do. D'Lo, I sent Sydney Sweeney a DM.
Damn, is his comparison here? He sent Sydney Sweeney a DM to you applying to Duke Law School. Wow, he's just roasting you to shreds.
Hey, speaking of DMs, I'll DM you my LSAT score, D'Lo.
Oh, got him. Back to the discussion about the off season of it all, if you will. How about this from Jim and O'Neill? And I want to hear this audio because this is fascinating. He says some food for thought on the football thing. On Gary and Matt this morning, I don't remember who made a comment about how they think some of the transfers might be good, but they're afraid to write about it because they don't want to be accused of being too positive. To which Jim and O'Neill added, "What the hell?" That is interesting. I'm trying to figure out who this guest was. I didn't see who the guest list was for Gary and Matt this morning. That is interesting that someone would say like, "Nah, I don't even want to write about it because I don't want to get accused of being a homer."
But we don't know who it was.
I'm looking up I'm looking up the list of guests that they had on the show.
It doesn't surprise me.
I wonder because he later added that he thinks it might have been around the crossover. They had Brandon Vogel on at the end of the show. I wonder if that was Brandon Vogel because that's the only Husker guest that they had on the show.
The guy I beat in the severe bracket, you mean?
The guy you beat in the severe bracket. Interesting. I'm gonna go check this interview out. I'm getting a column idea for Husker Max that I could write about this weekend.
I'm not surprised. You would know it better than me, Josh, but like there is so much vigilance to make sure you're not overhyping anything right now, right? Do you get that?
Well, yeah, and now I'm not afraid of like pushback. I'm afraid I don't want to be wrong. That's where I am at. It's not if I want to be positive about a player, I'm happy to do it. I don't want to be wrong though. Last year I was all in on the wide receiver hype and that bit me in the ass. And I wasn't upset because then people could say, wow, you really missed the boat. I was upset because I missed the boat. I was just upset at myself for allowing myself to get kind of sucked into that stuff. So Brendan says that's kind of a sad commentary on recent results that you'd be wary of writing about promising transfers, but I totally get it. Yeah, and the thing is, it's happened so many times in recent years where people have written positive things about the incoming transfers and not a whole lot of them have hit.
I even remember Josh coming and do it. Man, this was years ago. I went to, what was it? The brewery that they do the No Block, No Rock podcast. What is it? Nebraska Brewing Company. I remember I did some like roundtable segment with you guys there for some reason. I brought my son and my son played NBA Jam with Stibbs on an arcade thing. I remember we were talking. This is just a very random memory, but this was before the season. And one of the things we talked about on that show was how, whenever that was, probably 7-8 years ago, was about people not being sick of the media telling them that players were good or groups were good or basically overhyping at that point. We were talking about it then. Nothing good has happened since we did that. Like, people are way skeptical about any good news. They feel burned by it every single year. They're so tired of it. But the thing is, like, I don't even know what you say then if you're talking about the team that's coming.
Correct.
If nobody wants to hear anything good about anything until they actually see it.
Yeah.
I
guess we gotta wait. I guess we gotta wait.
Right.
I mean, what are we really doing over and over and over? Right? I'm sorry. We have to wait. Dave Bite says content idea: the spectrum of Husker media from pessimistic.
Ooh, that's a good one.
To Kool-Aid, and then he adds, "I'm not volunteering for this." Who is the most pessimistic regular Husker media member in 2025?
Well,
me?
No.
Oh, I thought you were pointing at me.
Although you're on the negative side, probably.
Who's the most Kool-Aid drinking?
Bigelow has been.
Bigelow, definitely. Now, he would say he's not in the media.
He's not in the media. Let's see.
I would argue with him because he goes to the stadium.
He may not do any of that. He may not anymore, though.
Well, yeah, that's true. But I saw him in the press box last year.
Okay, who besides that, though?
iFormation says Michael is the most
severe.
Yeah, Michael. Michael, I would say is.
Yeah, but man, sometimes I hear him just like go nuts about players, and I'll be like, okay, he'll get attached to players, though.
Yeah, I don't think Michael is negative. I think Michael is super informed and he knows what he's talking about. Is how I view Michael. But I understand why some people view that as negative. I don't view Michael as negative. But if this is a scale of positive to negative,
I mean, it was Dirk, right?
People always said it was Dirk. Yeah.
It was. It is / was Dirk.
Was Dirk negative or was Dirk realistic?
Well, whatever it was, he might have been right. But if you're putting him on a continuum,
for sure,
furthest on the negative side.
Yeah, and D'Lo adds, Michael is the one guy from out of state. Yes, he is, and that is definitely different. From a lot of us. Most of us not only grew up in the state, but most of us went to the university. Jack, like that's the wild part. It's like it's not just a bunch of.
G. Schramm, that's what I was talking about there. He said he spent a decade talking about Noah Pola Gates. Like he'll be as a guy who's negative, he's way more positive on certain players than I've ever been.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Biff says, I'd like a real running total of good / bad takes that were definitive over the years. Dirk and Michael are right way more than they were wrong. Bruce says maybe it's McMaster. Yeah, we hired Matt, and Matt kind of, he was on the phone with Gary, and he was kind of crapping on Rule. So maybe Matt is among the more negative. Maybe he is one of the more negative ones.
Yeah, ask Kenneth who the most negative is. He'd say me.
That's so funny. Yes, that's true.
And the most positive. Who's the most positive?
See, it's funny. Doing the negative discussion was actually fairly easy. Doesn't it feel mean if you're like, all right, now let's talk about who the biggest homer is? Like, what would you rather get called, Jack? The biggest hater or the biggest homer? If you didn't think you were either of those. Being called a homer is more offensive than being called a hater.
Homer's more offensive, for sure.
All right, so let's be offensive. So who's the biggest homer? Besides you, obviously.
Yeah, I don't really... I'm openly a fan like almost nobody else is, though.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Biff says Dean, which is Sean, for those who don't know. Mark says Sip. Corny says it's Sean. Lots of Sean. Many Sean. Sean and Sip over and over and over are the people that are getting recommended right now inside of the Discord chat.
Yeah, but I don't necessarily feel that way, though, I don't necessarily feel that like spinning bad performances into good, that kind of a thing, like continuing hope. Like, I feel like I'm more positive than he is.
What? Oh, okay. Let me ask you this. When you think of someone being a homer, do you think of them like always hyping them up? Or do you think of someone who protects the program? Yeah,
that's more what it, that's more what it is, or doesn't ask hard questions, right? That kind of a thing.
Or will literally ask like you're 10 minutes maybe into a press conference that's a little uncomfortable, and they're like, hey, so you guys have Purdue coming up this week, and they're a football team that seems to be on the up. Can you talk about them a little bit? Like, where you just kind of go away from some of the hard discussions that are being had.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I guess there's a question like, how do we define it?
Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. In terms of the overly, or a lack of willing to critique, I guess, is what it is.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's different. It feels like that's different for some reason. I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah. Who I think is fairly positive the majority of the time that I don't think people would agree with me on if I say this, but I'm not calling this person a homer, so don't put it on the internet. I'm calling him a homer. I think Sam McEwen is pretty positive. For the reputation that Sam has, I think he is a pretty positive person when it comes to Nebraska. I think the word I would use to describe him is like very forgiving of like mistakes, and he is willing to kind of like, I'll let them screw up a few more times before I really want to be ultra critical. Like I thought he did that with Frost. Again, not homer. Brennan says it. He is relatively optimistic. I think Sam tries to look for the better in people and those that he covers. That's how I've always.
I think so too. Yeah,
but I know some people are like.
That's part of the reason. I think it's part of the reason a lot of people like to listen to him.
Yeah, for sure.
That's probably why I do. Yeah.
Yeah. Jim and O'Neill says, I think John is more positive than people want to admit. I was wondering how people view John. Mark, Bishop doesn't even like football anymore. Corny says, where does Amy fall? I would say Amy is more on the positive side than the negative side. But Amy is also very interested in stories, right? She views it more through the lens of stories and people. And I think when you are very much, I don't view Husker football through the people. I view it through like pure, can you win or can you lose? And so I think that is, I think that I guess is inherently more negative, whereas she is looking at it more towards the, what's the story of this player or this program over the course of years.
Yeah, I can't really put myself in this conversation because it's different, because I openly hope they win. Openly hope they win.
Yes.
Every game. Openly hope they win. Same with I openly hope they win. I will be pissed if they don't win. And I will say it to everyone. Now, some people probably feel that way, but they don't say it. But I'll say it. That's
true. That is definitely true. Honestly, the biggest secret that's not a secret is that everyone wants them to win. It's just, right. It's just how willing are you to kind of talk about that?
Right.
And why do you want them to win?
And on the other hand, some people say sometimes I'm too critical of Nebraska basketball, to be honest.
You are. Your basketball fandom is so different than your football fandom. Jack, football you would hate the football version, or like the basketball you if you were talking about football. I don't know if that sentence made any sense. But if there was basketball Jack that talked about the football team like you talk about hoops, when you and I are doing Saturday night pods, you would despise that person. You would be so mad. You're always negative. You're always expecting the worst. You're brutal. You're annoying. You would despise that person.
Yeah, maybe. I might. I don't know. I can't even totally explain it. I have some theories, but I can't totally explain it. But you're right. I am harder on the basketball team than I am on the football team. And they're about to get their ass kicked by my second favorite team.
Yep. Huss, as we get ready to say goodbye, I honestly hate when local media people aren't fans of the program. How about that? Hates when local media are not fans of the program.
You hate it when they're not.
When they're not. He wants only fans, Jack.
Hey.
And that's a great reminder.
That's an interesting take. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think I feel that way.
I definitely don't. I want. But
I also want everyone to have a radio host like me who's cheering them on. Which, by the way, again, as we've mentioned many times, Josh, every pro market pretty much has.
Exactly.
And Nebraska doesn't really have, other than me.
Yeah, except for you. Yeah, we all want them to do well, but no one does it in the way that you do.
That is the weirdest thing. So you have all of these media members who are from Nebraska, right, who are sort of, people sort of say they're phantom fans or whatever. But in the pro market, you have all this tough media, but then you have radio hosts who are open fans.
Yep.
Right? And like you got nobody. Is anyone else doing that here other than me? Is there anybody who admits, is somebody on the ticket? I have no idea.
I was gonna say I think people feel that way about the ticket, but I don't listen to their show, so I can't really speak to that.
Yeah. That's
Jim and O'Neill. I don't want to have an echo chamber. I like people coming from all different views. Yeah.
But I mean, again, I don't have access to the entire country, but if you listen to Kansas City radio, They are fanboys of the Chiefs and Royals.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. All right, well, the crown's about to start, so we'll get ready to say goodbye there. If you stumbled upon us tonight, you've never been here before, this is the I-80 Club.
Subscribe.
We would love to have you. At the very least, we hope you hook us up with a subscription to our YouTube page because that is free of charge. Just click on that little subscribe button below you. Turn on the notifications. You'll get notified whenever we go live. We have so many things coming up over the course of the next few months into the 5-month lead up to the football season. We're very, very excited about it. We would love to have you. And if you go to patreon.com/I-80 Club, bonus episodes. We have a brand new volleyball state dropping tomorrow because they're part of the I-80 Club and so much more. So as low as $5 a month at patreon.com/I-80 Club. And again, hook us up with a like and a subscribe at the very least on YouTube.
Cale Jacobson is starting this game.
Yes, he is. Indeed, he is.
World? All right.
Yep. All right, we're going to say goodbye. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Thanks for hanging out. For Jack, I'm Josh. This is the I-80 Club, I-80 Live. Have a great Wednesday night. See ya.